Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. You know, on this show, we talk a lot about banksters. We hate banksters. Years and years now. Oh, banksters stink and whatnot. There is a man who has done more than just talk about it. He's actually going after them. Neil, welcome back to the Keiser Report.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
Neil Mitchell, Scottish businessman. He's taken on the banksters. We've been on the show before. You set up the attack on Royal Bank of Scotland, and you have not given up. This is amazing. So you released some documents related to Lloyd's and HBOS. Tell us what these documents were and what they prove.
An internal officer of Lloyd's Bank was asked by the director of risk at the bank to investigate failures in the bank. A woman called Sally Masterton, she did an amazing job, wrote a 160-page report, was then fired by the bank, was then absolutely abused, and over 5 years they have absolutely destroyed her. She deserves all the credit for it. The bank, the government, the regulator have all been aware of this report for 5 years. It's been kept secret. The police have had a copy and various agencies have had copies, but it's never come out in the public domain. The victims have never seen it.
So RBS, in their offshoot, the GRG group, has now, we know, been involved in torching and crashing and blowing apart up to 30,000 British businesses to seize those assets. It's part of an orchestrated smash and grab, financial terrorism. I haven't used that word in a while, but it is exactly what it is. So now you've kind of got the smoking gun here.
Well, the other thing was that the regulator's been investigating RBS GRG since 2013, when I was last on this show. And they finished the report nearly 2 years ago. And that report was suppressed too. And I managed to get a copy of that in February of this year. And I leaked that onto the internet. So now we've got both the reports out for the benefit of the victims. And these are two reports that the British government never wanted the people of the United Kingdom to see. And they have kept them secret for all this time. And I felt that when I managed to get copies, and I worked very hard to get copies of both, but when I got copies, it was in the public interest, it was in the national interests of our country, Great Britain, to get these reports out and to show exactly the extent of collusion between the government, the regulators, and these two banks. And it's no coincidence, in fact, it's quite deliberate, that it's the Royal Bank of Scotland and Lloyd's HBOS. These are the two banks that were bailed out. So they've had state bailouts, they've got state support, they're regulated by the state, they were majority owned by the state. And it is, you're right to say, it's state-sponsored terrorism, financial terrorism.
Of state-run institutions, state-controlled, state-funded, state-controlled, orchestrated, the BBC, the state-funded broadcaster, has also got a little slime on their boots here.
The BBC got a copy of the S166 in August of last year from a whistleblower. And when they put it out on the news on 6 o'clock on a bank holiday weekend, they were then threatened by, the state broadcaster then threatened by the state regulator, the Financial Conduct Authority, and the individual journalists were threatened with arrest and criminal prosecution and jail time if they dared to publish anything in this report or leak it. That's the extent to which our government and regulators have gone in trying to cover this up.
So just to be clear now, just go in a little bit more detail now, the document with the Lloyd's and HBOS, just go into that a little bit. What is what's going on?
Well, what it exposes is a £40 billion black hole in their accounts. It shows that 14 billion was lost to shareholders in the rights issue. It shows that the damages from the HBOS Reading criminal investigation isn't a few million, as the bank have always said. It's actually over a billion. There was even examples of money laundering. The last one was £11 million that were not reported to the regulator. So the report shows that had this information been freely available to the stock market, that the forced marriage of Lloyd's and HBOS couldn't have taken place, and the rights issue should not have taken place.
Right. So, and this is a shotgun wedding, more or less, that came out of that crisis as the state's trying to scramble to keep their buddies in the city whole, even though it meant huge sacrifices by the taxpayer was forced to bail out RBS, Royal Bank of Scotland, which is still majority owned by the public.
Yeah, I mean, RBS was bailed out with 46 billion of British taxpayer money. They've made cumulative losses over the next 10 years of 58 billion. There was a 258 billion toxic asset insurance program that the government backed that the public don't know about. You know, this bank continues to suck up taxpayer money, and all the bank is seen to now be, well, all the government now wants to do is they consider it a basket case and they just want to sell the shares and try and bury the entire problems that the bank still has.
Right. To be fair now, so as far as British media goes, there was some reporting on this over at Channel 4, Jon Snow at Channel 4, but at the BBC, which again, it's a state-run, state-controlled propaganda outlet, they were very loath to actually reveal the documents they had in-house. Was there any justification for them not to reveal this information?
Listen, last week when they knew...